I think we're back to Debi.
Yes, so these are going to be my observations, really. And we've been looking at a lot of the work the collaborations between the United States, the collaborations within the European Union that have embedded themselves in the NHS. And Ben Rubin's been talking about Palantir, and also we spoke about NHSX and the interventions of Nicole Junkermann with Mossad. So I just wanted to explore any collaborations that there were between this time the Israel government and the UK government, and how much of their collaborations were feeding in to the NHS now. So these are just my observations, and comments, as always, very welcome from our audience. So my journey started in 2014 when I found this article in the BBC. Many people might remember it because I know UK Column have reported on it before, when David Cameron was Prime Minister, and he said that his belief in Israel was unbreakable. And just take a note of the date there. It was the 12th of March 2014. And on the very next day, on the UK Gov website, it was announced on the 13th of March that 70 million pounds in Israel investment was coming to the UK. Now let's just look at those in a little bit more detail. So we've got 12 million going to Israeli pharmaceutical company Tava. We've got energy as well, and we've got APOS therapy. Now that's a biomedical and therapy company that helps with rheumatoid arthritis and joints. So just let's look at Teva, because that particularly jumped out at me. And indeed, here's their announcement to say that the collaboration on a national clinical drug development initiative is taking place with dementia research. And we're looking at 20 million in clinical development in the UK and 1 million into dementia. And just let's remember that Raj Long on the MHRA board and the UK HSA board has written the dementia plan for the UK, although she has no qualifications. So again, if we just jump forward again to 2017, I just want to highlight this gentleman, David Dangoor. This was an article in the Jewish Chronicle. And David Dankor is a philanthropist, and he decided, in memory of his father, he's got quite an interesting history, and perhaps we'll talk about that a little bit in extra, but in memory of his father, he wanted to set up a digital health technology into the NHS from Israel. And indeed, if we jump forward, and we can see that it didn't take long before that actually did happen, and that the Israel ambassador, David Quarry, along with David Dangoor, did indeed do that. And they launched the UK Israel Dankor health programme, which in turn fed into the UK NHS National Health Service. So we can see a lot of involvement there. And as soon as that had happened, we found that there was even more collaboration with studies that were going on between the UK and Israel. And in Sciana, the Health Leaders Network brought out this article in 2018 to say that we were learning from each other. And indeed, in that same year, in 2018, NHSX was formed. And this is a picture that I dug up. I mean, I had to really search for it, but this was the NHSX board, which was started in 2018. And that is actually Matt Hancock. I'm sorry, it's a bit blurry, but that is actually Matt Hancock in the middle. But the lady that I've circled in yellow is Nicole Junkermann, founder of NJF Holdings, an international finance and investment company. And I'd say to everybody, please go to Johnny Vedmore's website, because he's done a huge amount of work on Nicole Junkermann's connections with the Mossad, FIFA corruptions, the Panama Papers, etc. So there you have another connection. Then jumping forward to 2019, again in the Jewish Chronicle announced that the ex-ambassador to Israel was named as the new NHS tech chief. This is Matthew Gould. But although he was appointed and he was delighted to take on the job, it didn't last long, because just moving forward, you'll find that he took up the lead post at London Zoo, which was a complete U-turn for him. But he said it was his dream job and that he was over the moon. However, in 2023, Matthew Gould has still obviously got his fingers very much in the digital pie, because it was announced by Digital Health that he was going to join Quantexa. Now, Quantexa they're the rivals to Palantir, who are trying to get the contract for NHS Digital. So there was obviously, he had to consult the Department of Health, because he had to say, look, is this a conflict of interest? Because I know quite a lot about how you operate, and Palantir are the rival. And they asked Palantir, and Palantir said that there was actually no conflict of interest. So he was appointed to the advisory board of Quantexa. But it's also going back, I'm sorry, to the king, who at the time, Prince Charles, when he went to visit Jerusalem. I'm just showing you how many people are involved in this collaboration. And Prince Charles said that Israeli genius was needed to maintain basically the NHS. And while he was there, he was presented with the sniff phone, which was an electronic nose that can detect diseases from breath. And we know that that's happening at the moment. And he was also shown 3D printed hearts. But where does the connection carry on? Well, of course, it carried on during the pandemic. And the Telegraph printed this article to say that we could learn a lot from Israel. So what do we learn from Israel? This partnership is going to carry on. And very soon after that, there was another article published in the Jewish News about how Israel could basically remedy any weaknesses in the NHS, weaknesses that presumably we had discovered during the pandemic. Because let's not forget, there is the Pfizer connection. Israel rolled out Pfizer and became a test bed for Pfizer. But clearly, Israel believe that NHS has a lot of data and they want a pull on that data. And this has moved forward into the Memorandum of Understanding between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel and the UK Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, where in 2021 they were discussing developing a roadmap. And the roadmap was going to include many different topics. It was going to include genomics, we're talking health, we're talking science. I think if we jump to the next slide, you'll see some of the categories that were going to be included in that roadmap. And there's quite a fair few. And then if we see they were planning it in 2021, but that has actually come to fruition now. And we're going to jump forward to now the 2030 roadmap for UK-Israel bilateral relations, of which there are plenty. And I have to say that I'm just going to concentrate for a minute on science and health, but I would say to everybody, go to that roadmap and have a look. So if we look at have a look at science and innovation, we can see that this was all started in 2011. And since 2011, there have been 250 partnerships with Israeli technology and innovation companies. And that's had a 1.2 billion economic impact to the UK. Then looking at health for the next one, and you can see that, again, it says Israel is a significant partner for Britain's NHS. And there's quite a few companies that you'll know the names of there, Innovate, etc., UKRI, they're all in it together. But there are even more connections with Israel. So I want to introduce you to the NHSA, which some of you may not have heard of. And this is the Northern Health Science Alliance. And this is a health and life sciences partnership between the leading NHS trusts and universities in Northern England. So this was established in 2011. And I have to say, this is the authoritative agency that works on behalf of the North's leading universities and NHS trusts. So let's look at the collaboration that they have with Israel. And you can see just on this one screenshot at the bottom of the screen, you've got the State of Israel Ministry of Economy and Industry. You've got the UK Israel Tech Hub. You've got the, which is actually the Dankor Health Initiative. And we were speaking about David Dangoor a moment ago. the British Embassy in Israel, and UKRI Research in England. And then if we look further on at the NHSA, we can see that they did mark a new phase of partnership in May 2022. And there you can all see them very proudly holding up the next phase of their partnership. And this did jump on very quickly, because if we go to the next slide, you'll see that that has resulted in cutting edge technology to improve mental health. Now, this follows the NHSA's parallel pandemic report. But if you look then further on, and I'm literally just presenting you with the evidence, is that the NHS will be using Taliaz's artificial intelligence software platform Predictix. Now, this is for psychiatrists and GPs, and apparently this is going to put mental health on the map. And the reason that they're doing this is because they say that many patients, or at least many people in the north, seem to suffer with more mental health illness. So the NHS Collaboration has actually been officially recognised now, the NHSA collaboration with the UK government. And on the 23rd of March, it was, you can see the picture there of James Cleverly. The government pledged to support for NHSA partnership to tackle global healthcare challenges. So when we look at that in a little bit more detail, one thing that I will say, which I was quite shocked about, was that Teva, the pharmaceutical companies, the company does supply 1 in 7 of our medicines that we receive in the NHS. And there's a little bit more detail there, which will tell you about the roadmap. And again, it says there, as I've just said, Israel is a significant partner for the NHS, supplying 1 in 7 of all medicines. So jumping on to look at the UK-Israel Tech Report, those just a few statistics there to show you how embedded the Israel government and Israel innovation companies and tech companies are in the UK. Works out to £1 billion of gross value added economic impact. And I would just like to add there that it says 250 tech partnerships, and it talks about unicorns. And a unicorn company, as defined by Fortune, is a privately held startup company with a valuation of 1 billion or more. And you can see in the UK there we have 144 unicorns, and in Israel 98. So UK and Israel, Europe's tech superpowers. So my question would be really, we do have a lot of involvement with Israel, but this is ultimately down to our politicians. And we'll talk about it a bit more on Extra, but just as a final on this segment, we do have an APPG for Israel. And I've also got a screenshot of the members there. There's plenty of lords and ladies, and also you'll see Teresa Villiers there as well on the UK current APPG Israel group. So just the tip of the iceberg, but I just wanted to highlight where it interlinks.
Great deal of questions to be asked, Debbie, over that, about the interest, the people, the loyalties, what they're really doing and what's really happening with our data and information. So thank you very much for that in-depth look.
Okay, let's come back.